Hello there. Welcome to the Chimes Farms. Today, I'm taking on the challenge of sharing with you what I learned from having successfully brooded a few flocks of day-old chicks, even as a newbie, a complete beginner. It was scary, though in hindsight, it really shouldn't have been. But I did it, and here I'll be sharing with you my best brooding tips. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button because I'm all about helping you succeed in poultry farming just as I have done and I am doing. So stay tuned as we learn together. When I told folks that I was starting a small poultry, basically all were pleasantly surprised. However, when I added that I was starting with day-old chicks, many started looking at me like, are you for real? Day-old chicks? The number of people who are practically terrified of raising day-old chicks is quite interesting. A lot of farmers prefer to get them when they are a few weeks old, so they can avoid those delicate days. You know what I mean? But I wanted to raise day-old chicks because I wanted to be in complete control of the outcomes and results I get from my birds. During my days of research, I had learned that the inputs from the very first day is critical. So I didn't think I could trust someone else to do the best for those chicks at that early stage before it gets to me a few weeks later. So I got the day-old chicks and started the journey from which I learned all that I'll be sharing with you here today. Much like a newborn baby, a day-old chick is delicate and subject to dangers from diseases, temperature and environmental hazards, physical danger from predators, malnutrition, and general poor handling. Considering all of the above, you should only raise day-old chicks if you have the time to watch them closely as you would a newborn baby. If you cannot spare the time to keep consistent watching them, then maybe you'll be better off with starting with those more matured ones. Funny enough, even those will also need a level of presence to ensure they perform at their best. If you're going to raise day-old chicks, there are essentials that cannot be toyed with. These include a clean enclosed space with suitably controlled ventilation, adequate heat source or heat sources for the space, 24-hour lighting, clean water source, good quality starter or pre-starter feed, medication for common ailments like coccidiosis, CRD, which is chronic respiratory disease, and some others. Personally, since I run a completely organic poultry, these medications for me consist of herbs and spices, a few other organic materials. So, aside from these essentials, personally, I also got a thermometer because I think it's important to monitor the temperature in the brooder because the birds will not be able to do that for themselves, so you have to check. And then I also got a scale to keep close watch on their weight gain because this also is another essential. Now, let's break the process down into steps for easy assimilation. The first thing, get your chicks from reputable hatcheries. The success or failure of this venture begins with the quality of chicks you get. If the chicks have issues from the get-go, you'll be facing an uphill task from the very beginning and may likely not get the best results, no matter how hard you try and what inputs you put into the system. You can do some research to find out which hatcheries around you offer good quality chicks. There are a few here in Nigeria where I reside, but I won't make any recommendations. You can, however, drop your location in the comment section below, and maybe someone will be able to help you out with recommendations for your location. Before sourcing for your chicks, it's assumed that you would have prepared the brooder. We've already talked about the brooder. This is the space where you keep the chicks. It has to be clean, with controlled access, heating, and lighting. Nothing, especially pets and pests, should be able to get in. It should be adequately ventilated but not left wide open to avoid draft. Temperature is a critical factor in a brooder because the chicks cannot regulate their body heat at this stage. So the environmental temperature must be kept at around 30 to 35 degrees Celsius at all times. You can check the chart on the screen to see the temperature requirements for each state as published by Colorado State University. Next, ensure that you have dry and absorbent litter or bedding on the floor. This should be something natural that won't cause harm to the chicks should they ingest it. You can check the video linked above for more on the right type of litter to use at different stages of your chicken's development. This has covered the basics of your brooder. You can click the link above to learn in detail how to prepare a brooder for your chicks. So, you've sourced the chicks, you've prepared the brooder. Now you're welcoming the chicks. Your chicks have just arrived, and if you're like me, you are really excited. You're ready to get in and begin to do the stuff. But hey, hold on. Yes, you've got your feed, you've got your water ready, and you can't wait to begin to give it to them. It's a normal feeling. I felt the same way. But hey, you just have to hold on. Before you start feeding them, you need to allow them some time to get accustomed to their new surrounding. This also allow you observe them keenly. Put them in the brooder and watch them. Ideally, they should be active, running around the space. Leave them without water and food for about an hour. After an hour, bring in their water. Use a drinker that is safe and appropriate for their height. Proof it by placing stones strategically around it so that they can't drown in it should they fall into it in their curiosity. You can also add some glucose and multivitamins into this water. This is standard practice for most farmers. The other option for me is to add coconut water to this first water. Coconut water is loaded with electrolytes, vitamins, and minerals, so it will help ease the stress the chicks had gone through to get to your farm. Chicks are smart and will likely find the water by themselves, but it's advisable that you physically introduce a few chicks to the water. Simply pick up a chick and dip its beak into the water. Remember that this is its first encounter with water. It does not know what water is. So this introduction will help it identify what water is. Do it for a few chicks, and once they start drinking, let them be. Others will follow by watching. After about an hour, bring in their feeder. Don't worry. Chicks have enough nourishment from the eggs from which they hatched to last them up to 2 or 3 days after hatching. So don't feel like you are starving them. Use an appropriate feeder so they can easily find the food and eat from it. You can click the link above to see different types of feeders and which will be best for your chicks at different stages of their development. So congratulations, you've just concluded the first set of steps in the process. Now, you will need to check on them regularly. Focus on the temperature in the brooder and their feeding as well as drinking. After the feed has been with them for about an hour or so, we can pick up a few of them. Check their crop to confirm that indeed they've eaten. If you don't know what a crop is, this is what it's called, a crop. Look, the image on the screen. When the chick eats, this part swells up and becomes a bit rigid. As digestion occurs, it is emptied of its content and gets smaller. For your chicks, especially if you're raising broilers, you want this crop to be filled as often as possible. That is why it is recommended that you feed your chicks ad lib. This is a term I found interesting since we use it in music to describe a free-form musical expression. Anyway, in poultry, this means ensuring that the chicks always have access to feed. Their feeder should never be empty for the first few weeks. The rule is a bit different if you're raising broilers. These are raised for meat, so achieving market weight at the shortest possible time is critical. To this end, you are to continue the ad lib feeding for up to 6 weeks. If possible, I did for up to 6 weeks. I added this caveat because there are temperature considerations to be aware of as broilers get bigger. At some point, they will need to stop feeding when it's hot to avoid heat stress. You can click the link above for tips on raising broilers. So we've basically covered all you need to get started with brooding your day-old chicks. Let's recap. 1. Source your chicks from reputable hatchery. Prepare the brooder to provide maximum protection and comfort to your chicks. Constantly monitor the temperature in the brooder to ensure it is warm enough for them. It should also not be too hot for them. Get good quality age-appropriate feed. I personally use pre-starters for the first 2 weeks before switching to starters for the next 4 weeks. At least that's because of the manufacturer I use. They have pre-starter for the first days and then a starter. Pay close attention to ensure that they are eating and drinking. Watch for any dullness or unusual inactivity. Pay attention to their poop. The color and texture can tell you a lot about the state of their health. Ensure that the litter is clean and dry. This is an easy point for contracting diseases. If you can, change the litter frequently. In their first week, I change their litter every day. Remember, this is a short guide for brooding your chicks in the first 1 to 2 weeks. This is a stage that many farmers dread, which is why I'm focusing on it. Just treat the chicks the same way you would a newborn baby, and you will be fine. How long should they stay in the brooder? Well, I keep my broilers in the brooder till about 4 weeks before moving them to a bigger space. The layers I found can stay longer in the space because they are smaller, they take a longer time to grow. Though they get aggressive if the space becomes small, they begin to peck themselves and cannibalism can set in. So, move them once you are sure they can self-regulate their body temperature. No matter how much tips and guides you receive, you will have to experience things for yourself to really get a hang of things. So stop sitting on the fence, get started, and you'll be glad you did. If you found this video helpful, kindly like it, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so you get notified when I drop new videos, which I will do often. I'd love to hear from you. Drop your questions or comments below, and I'll be glad to respond. Cheers and happy farming.